Hello, dear nanobackers, and we are back for another video update. Today we have a small artist talk with the wonderful Katherine Boils. Glad to have you here.
Hello, glad to be here.
And on this side there is Fabian. So
I guess you already know me. So
yeah,
hi guys.
nice to have you here as well. So yeah, I'm sitting still here on the terrace at my parents' place. Let's just get up the questions. So yeah, Katherine, the first thing we and all the backers really want to know, so who are you? How did you come into doing what you're doing, and how did you become a professional layouter? I mean, this is always a very interesting thing, how people choose this kind of jobs, because it's not so common. Like, how did you get there?
It actually is kind of funny because I've loved graphic design since I was really little. I used to do like scrapbook pages on my computer and like just random things that technically were graphic design, but I didn't realize until well into like college that it was an actual thing that you could do as a career. So I went to college for something completely different.
What did you do during college time? So which kind of graphic design did you do there?
Well, I did journalism in college.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I was like doing writing, and I had totally thought I was gonna like work for a newspaper or something, and then I kind of stumbled into a job opportunity where I had to do graphic design, and I was like, oh, I've been doing this kind of thing for years and I love it. And I from there did an internship with a graphic design agency, and then moved into like a corporate where I worked for Fruit of the Loom for several years. So yeah, I kind of spent several years in like marketing, graphic design. And then my dream was always to like do board games. That was kind of like, oh, you know, that would be the dream, because I'm such a fan of games in general. And then, yeah, I ended up with like an opportunity a couple of years ago, and that led to another one. And I eventually quit the corporate like world and started doing freelance graphic design. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I ended up here. And I've worked on, I think, 5 or 6 board games at this point. And I have other freelance graphic design type clients as well. And so that's how I got into that.
And was it a lot of advertisement which you were doing before? I mean, I think layouts also work a lot in the advertisements sector, don't they?
Yes. Yep. A lot of what my other type clients in the freelance business are is social media advertising, website banners, flyers, things like that. So it is a lot in advertising and marketing still, but I get to be a little more picky about my clients and you know what their product is and what kind of work they need. So that's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. And how would you say like the different sectors of layout like differ from each other, like the corporate layouting and the board game industry? Is it very different from each other?
Yeah, it's very different. There's a lot more art involved with board games for sure. You know, both of them need to be able to portray a message. You know, advertising is trying to get people to buy something, and the board game wants to make a message of, you know, how to play the game or what this card does or something. That part is similar in that it has to be very clear in what it's communicating, but there's so much more fun in board games, really, is what it comes down to. Like, you know, the art and the story that you're telling is just way more compelling to me as a gamer.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is some overlap in what you're like trying to accomplish with the design.
Yeah, totally. And as you are a gamer, I mean, what kind of gamer are you? A lot of people will be interested in that. So what is your history in gaming? So what kind of games were important for you, and where are you coming from?
I love board games and video games. I really don't know which one I would say that I like more. But as far as board games, I like a wide variety. I like worker placement games. I like campaign style games like Nanolith. My favorites right now are probably Wingspan, and Viticulture is another favorite. But video games, I like a lot. Adventure games. One of my favorite genres is like management style sims, like Stardew Valley. Like just the games where you are simulating something that might be really boring in real life,
like a farm or something.
Yeah, exactly. Farm video games are like one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, okay, cool. And what do you like about it so much? Like, is it this accomplishment of like something which is building up slowly and like grow even more over time?
Yeah,
is it that?
Probably. I think that's a lot of it, which also is a lot of like in board games where you're like building an engine, in by getting different pieces and putting them in line. But also, I think I'm just kind of like an organization nerd. Um, and that comes into graphic design a lot too, because you're taking pictures and information and text and everything and organizing it in a pretty way. And that's a lot of what you're doing in like a game like Stardew Valley is you're organizing your time. What am I going to do today, like on this game day to max profit,
Hmm.
Mhm.
so I think that kind of like micromanagement stuff in video games is just appealing to me.
Yeah, totally.
According to your job, is that the most thing you like, or just tell us what you like most on designing board games, and the worst as well.
um yeah, I would say that's probably what I enjoy the most is just that I get to work on like something I'm super passionate about.
Mhm.
Board games and uh getting to like see those stories and work with that art. Like especially like Nanolith was a great one because there was no shortage of like inspiration in the art and in the story. Like there was constantly something cool to be working with that made it easier to, come up with good graphics for it. Um, I'd say the worst part of it is that I have to work like alone a lot,
Mhm.
like as the only graphic designer involved in different projects. And as a freelancer,
Yeah.
I'm typically not, getting feedback from other graphic designers. Whereas in my previous work, I might have been part of a team that had 5 or 6 graphic designers. And I
Hmm.
do think that that has its benefits as far as like growing
Yeah.
in some ways, because you get more
Input
feedback
from
that's
other people from the
specifically,
same job. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And not that, I mean, obviously other people with other specialties are able to give good quality feedback as well, but there's just something about having that graphic
Yeah.
design team that helps, I think, push me in a lot of ways, and so I miss that. But um, it's still really cool to get to work on the types of things that I love, like board games.
Yeah, yeah. And
Mhm.
it's something which happened to me quite often is like choosing a game just because of its appearance. Like, especially in the first time when I got into board games, I was like, oh, wow, this looks cool. Just grab it.
Oh
And then
yeah,
starting to play it. And after a few hours, I just realized, oh, okay, perhaps the visuals are the best part
yeah,
of this game. Did this happen to
yeah.
you as well? Like, do you know this kind of
Oh,
problem?
100%.
Yeah.
I've had to, so Gen Con is a big board game convention here in the US,
Yeah.
and I have a really hard time not just being like, oh, this is a pretty game. I want it. I have to like, I stop myself and look up like, okay, am I going to like this game? Is it, is it mechanics that I enjoyed? Is it going to be a, game length that I'm never actually going to make it to the table with? And I've had to learn that lesson with video games too, because there are so many like pretty art styles in video games. And
Hmm.
I'll be like,
Yeah.
I
Right.
want
Yeah.
this game, but then I bought it and then been like, this is not a game. Like Cuphead. Have you all played Cuphead?
Yes, I see it. I at
No.
least saw it on Steam. Yeah. I know the
Okay, it
visuals. It's
looks
fantastic. It looks
gorgeous.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like one of the hardest games, and I do not like my games to be that hard. So I spent whatever amount of money on it, and I played it for like 15 minutes, and I was like, nope,
No,
not for
this is
me.
too hard for
It's
me.
just pretty.
Yeah, it was the same
Yeah, I
for me
get that.
when I saw Dark Souls. I was like totally into the idea of
Mm,
all this stuff, and I loved
yep,
the world. And then I was playing it for a few hours, and I was like, "Oh no, come on, you're
yep.
kidding me! I won't do this for the next 10 hours.
That's
No
for sure.
way."
That's one that I won't touch. Looks great, not for me.
Yeah, and so if we come a bit more to the layout part of games, so what do you think is like very important for the layout of games? I mean, sure, it needs to be readable, but what would you say is like is readability like the most important thing, or what do you think? What is very important about the layout of a board game? What kind of things
Yeah,
speak to you?
I think readability is really important. My favorite thing in board games is when everything is on the board or card. Like, obviously, you have to read the rule book to understand how to play the game. But if when you go to playing the game, everything that you need to remember is referenced on that, like with an icon
It's
or
right there.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If you played Viticulture, they have on the board at the end of each year, because the game takes place, you do spring, summer, fall,
Yeah.
winter. At the end of the year, there are 5 things you have to do to reset for the next year. That's all on the board.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, and there's spaces for the cards. I really, really like that kind of thing in graphic design with board games, because I'm not picking up the rule book. If I haven't played the game in 6 months, I can just
No.
take a glance and remember how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's one of my favorite things that design can accomplish in board games, is just that like
Yeah,
refresher.
ease this the playing experience, like having
Mhm.
everything ready. I remember that I believe all the idea for in the player boards to have like the nanoshock icons situated beneath the stress bar. I think this just came from you, so I don't remember you saying anything in
I think so
regards to
too,
this.
because
Yeah, it
yeah,
was
I
And I
was
was
like,
definitely.
hey, this would be
Get it? This is genius. Everybody will just see it in the icons just beneath the stress bar what he needs to do or she needs to do to reset after a nanoshock. So
because I tend to forget that kind of thing if it's not right in front of me.
Yeah.
And so even if it's really subtle, it's enough to make your brain go, okay, I can do this.
yeah, and in regards to nanolith, I think there's a few other things which are quite an achievement and are not easy to incorporate in the game. For example, all the sticker issues, like having the correct sizes for all those things, and doing also the stickers and stuff. Is this a project which is very complicated for you to do from a layout perspective, or also in regards to other projects which you did before? Is it an advanced kind of layouting, or is it more on the easy side? What would you say?
I wouldn't say easy,
Mhm.
but yeah, I've done other games where there were stickers or similar types of things to where I wasn't completely unfamiliar with it. I would say the thing that's been the most different about Nanolith compared to other games I worked on is just its sheer size. Like you've got hundreds of pages of storybook and encounter book, and hundreds of cards, and that's been a challenge, but in a really cool way, to get all of those things to be unique, have their own like different distinctive design, but also look good together.
Hmm.
I've never worked on a game that had that many components or
There's just the scope of
assets
the
to it.
game. Yeah.
Yeah, which is like I said, totally awesome.
Yeah.
But it did make for a bit of a challenge in making sure things looked unique
Yeah.
Mhm.
and cohesive at the same time.
This is a problem which I always encounter when I'm doing like the rough sketches for playtesting before it goes to layout. There's a lot of like a long time we are just playing on CorelDRAW templates, and all the
Yeah.
poor test players always see just my really not so aesthetically pleasant layouts. And I
Sure.
always see these things and think just, oh my God, how will Catherine be able to make this in any way visually pleasant? And then you come up with something and it really looks good, and I'm always very surprised about it. But yeah, is it a lot
Oh,
of like
thanks.
experimenting with the different areas of the board, and you're just sitting there and trying to arrange it in a way that it's feasible, that it's good?
Oh yeah. Um, yeah, I usually will like with the player board, I'll just like measure everything out that I need, like a card, because the spot for the card has to be a certain size. So I'll just put a box.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So I'll just start with getting everything that I know that has to fit, and then I'll move it around until I'm like, okay, this makes sense, it's readable, it fits. And then I kind of go into like trying to make it look pretty.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'll usually start with something completely hideous because that way I can at least get my mind wrapped around what all needs to fit on there and how it's going to be arranged.
Yeah.
And then you sleep over it and just turn it all
Exactly.
around.
Yeah, because sometimes that's as far as I'll get it. So I'm like, okay, all the boxes are here and now I'm stuck. But yeah, a fresh mind after some sleep is a big help.
Yeah, this is something which I didn't know before as well. Like I always like to just play around with a few of these vector graphic programs when I was younger as well. So, but now that I like know that at least won't be published in my version, but it will be like a lot of people will see it, I try to spend a bit more time in like getting this at least to a point where people can read it easily. And I'm always surprised in how long it takes, how much time is involved in this layouting process. I mean, yeah, what would you say? Is this a lot of expertise which you have, which makes this process go faster, or is it just like also for you an immense time investment which you always have to do?
It's a little of both. It definitely gets quicker, I think, as you do it more, because you have almost like a library in your head of like, I know this will work a certain way.
Hmm.
And not to say that you don't try to come up with like new ideas or anything, but there's some part of my brain that's either seen a design before or done a design a certain way before. And so it'll like come to me easier. But yeah, sometimes it just takes time, and it takes, you know, like we're talking about sleeping on it, it just takes like walking away from it for a little bit, because I've found that I'll get stuck on something and I'll be like, I have no idea how to make this work. And then if I leave and come back, you know, then it's like, okay, I can look at it with a fresh mindset, and that helps immensely.
Did you have this as well during the process of Nanolith? Like such a
Oh yeah.
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 Which components were it, or which things did you think the most about, and was the hardest to come up with?
I think the player board was one of the big ones, just because it was actually, I think, the first piece that I did outside, because I did the encounter book pages, and then the first like game component I did was the player board. So not all of the, once that was done, some of the like design elements had been determined, you know, the hexes in the background and things like that, I then carried over into other cards. But that was one where I was just starting with like really a blank canvas. So that one was tough. Another one that I remember we like together went back and forth on a lot was the boss cards.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I think that ended up in a good place. But yeah, we had a couple different layouts, because there were different, you know, types of information. Some of them had the attack profiles and some of them don't. And so yeah, that one had a lot of back and forth. And
yeah, they must look nice, but you also have like a lot of different programming for the bosses going on there. Sometimes they attack with a profile, sometimes they do something totally different. Everything has to be like easy to read and cohesive. Actually, it's not funny that you say the player boards were a big issue, because I mean, it's funny that even Max is not here. Now he can't stop me from telling, because we were having like incredible not like conversations, long and intense conversations, let's say. So how the player board for Nanolith should look like, and I think there were like at least 3 or 4 different iterations until we came up with a thing which now I think works really well and is like super streamlined and easy to read, and even so like practical. But there were so many different ideas and so many, let's say, problems. For example, we had at the beginning, we had these, you were throwing your dice and then you were sorting your dice into an active bar, and then you had to like put up all the dice and put it in an inactive slot. And this sounded cool and was quite cool as well in Tabletop Simulator, but when I the first time like had the analog super prototype printed, I was like controlling all 4 characters, and I was just throwing 20 dice and then sorting 20 dice into the different slots, and then we're doing the action and was sorting the 20 dice again in different slots. And I was like, no, I won't let this happen. I really had to talk Max out of this thing.
Remember several drafts we had. Perhaps we can do an evolvement step by step how the player boards gets done, because we have so much mostly cruel experiments there.
Yeah, we also had like a little space in which you roll your dice, so they are just lying
and that's never gonna work.
No, it didn't work when we were checking for it, so we were this would not work, so we didn't do it. Yeah, cool. Fine that we finally have something which is at such a good state. So so something else about layouters. Do you have like a specific layout thing which you would say, this is the coolest layout which I ever saw in board games or something? This is something which is, I mean, you said Wingspan. I think Wingspan is very good because of the illustrations, and like it's easy to read and very so very a nice layout. Would this be something, or do you have something else in mind where you say this is like, that's how a layout should look?
I don't know if I have a specific game that's, you know, a favorite layout. I do feel like I notice when games have, you know, good design and I'm attracted to them. And Viticulture, like I said, is another one that is just really well done. Has spaces for all the cards on the board, which is another like pet peeve of mine, is when they don't
just fly around the board. You like it if it's all sorted and like has space?
Like I said, I'm an organization nerd, so like if there's a spot for everything, then
I like this as well, like in the board games as well.
But I don't know if there's like just one that I consider to be the like holy grail of board game design, but Stonemaier Games is the company that does Wingspan and Viticulture, and in general I find theirs to be like very aesthetically pleasing.
Actually,
And
don't know if it's the same graphic artist there, but do you have some kind of idol in that position?
I wouldn't say I have an idol specifically in graphic design. As far as, I mean, there are several graphic designers that I admire.
Mhm.
When I think about an idol in like the gaming industry in general, what comes to mind? Are you all familiar with Critical Role?
yeah,
Mhm.
totally.
Yeah.
Okay. They're actually the first people that pop in my mind there, just because they are like huge nerds who took their passion and turned it
Yeah.
into, like a business, and they do, they have their own board game publishing thing now and all sorts of stuff. So I think about that, like, um, drive and passion for what you love and making it
Mhm.
Yeah.
into something. I would say they're like my biggest idols in the industry, like adjacent.
Yeah.
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 But
That counts.
more so
Yeah.
for their for their like passion and their work ethic and the way they like their quality, that everything they do is.
Mhm.
Um, that's what comes to mind for an idol.
Totally, I'm with you on the same spot. I mean, for me also, this idea of people like having this project which is really important to them, and then this publishing thing growing and growing and producing even more stuff. And so this is also an idea which is which I'm really familiar with, which I think is really awesome in the industry. But when you changed from doing the advertisements, and I don't know, have you ever been employed as well as a graphic designer, like in a fixed position?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So my first job was Fruit of the Loom, which have you heard of? I mean, it's an
Yeah,
underwear
sure.
company. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I figured, but I worked there for 4 years, just like doing advertising, email marketing, and social media, things like that. And then from there, I went to Cafe Press, which is a online. They did print on demand T-shirts,
Mhm.
mugs,
Mhm.
tote bags, just all sorts of things. Worked for them for 4 years.
And
And
what are
then
you,
from
what
there,
did you do there? Like, I mean, there you had to like look at the stuff which the clients wanted to print, like fit size wise and stuff like this, or did you?
a little bit, but more so it was that email marketing. We
Uh-huh.
sent out emails every single day at that company. Like
Whoa.
like sales on like, oh, you can custom order a mug for 20% off today, or you can, it was that kind of
Oh,
thing.
something. All right.
So yeah, it was a lot of advertising and marketing work in email and web and social specifically.
So
I,
more in corporate design and corporate identity and such stuff.
uh-huh.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But then I think the step to like being a freelancing layouter is a big one, isn't it? I mean, wasn't this a big change in your life? Like, how did you
Oh yeah.
experience that?
So I started doing freelance on the side about 3 years ago. So that was while I was at Cafe Press. I just like wanted to do some other types of projects. I think just doing kind of the same emails and stuff like that every day was just not scratching the itch of wanting to do graphic design. So I started taking on, online clients who were looking for, um, you know, similar types of projects, flyers, brochures, things like that, that I, was able to build up a portfolio with.
But
Um,
as you did this while you were already employed and were like
yes.
your full-time job, wow, this is
Yeah,
like
I would do it at night, mostly, and then on the weekends. This is
sounds like
before
a
I had a
lot of work.
child
Yeah.
also.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
But because I did that, I was able to build up a portfolio and clients, and I used a website that, connects you with different people looking for freelancers. So I built up a rating, a high rating on there.
Mhm.
And from there, just started getting referrals. And by two or 3 years in, I'd say I had quite a bit of work, and I started thinking like, I could probably quit my job. So right before I did, I like sought out a few more clients even. And then once I felt like, okay, I've got something really steady and reliable built up, I quit that job. And that was actually in December of last year. So it's been close to a year that I've been doing the freelance full
So
time.
cool. It's
So did
really
Nanolith had an impact on that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think I connected with you guys a little bit before. Um,
Yeah.
so it was just one more thing like, okay, cool, I'll have a great project to work on. So
yeah, and it will go on, and there's a lot of stuff which will be layouted in the future as well. As we are speaking about the future, is there something? I mean, how's the next month, the next year structure for you? Or do you have any projects? I mean, Nanolith or even besides of Nanolith, which you're really looking forward to, or how's your future like looking like in the next time?
Don't say waiting for Nanolith 2.
You're right.
Oh no, there's so much work for Nanolith 1 still to be done. So
Oh yeah. I mean, I've definitely got that work ahead of me that I'm looking forward to, because the encounter book has been one of the most fun things that I've gotten to work on, and then there's a lot more still to do there. So looking forward to that. I've got 2 other games coming to Kickstarter that I'm working on right now. One of them is mostly complete, and then the other one is very, very early on. So for a long time, the first like 3 or 4 games I worked on were all sci-fi space genre. So that's
cool.
great. I like that genre, but I was like,
another sci-fi game. Okay.
I'm ready to do something different.
Yeah.
So that's cool, because one of the 2 games is like a dog themed game where you play as a dog, and then the other one is like an Olympic skiing event. So
oh cool. Okay. Something
yeah,
really
so like
different.
definitely very variety. So that's cool. I'm very excited about those. And then just as I get more opportunities in the board game industry, I feel like I can kind of get rid of some of my projects that I work on that are not as things that are not
That's
as
interesting.
in line with my passion. So that's probably what I'm looking forward to most over the next few years.
Yeah, I can totally connect to this. I think this is one of the best things about being a freelancer, that you can really choose what is important and what interests you the most. So yeah, wish you all the luck for the future. So as I'm still not a Zoom Pro user, we only have like a few minutes left to end this meeting. And I also think it's like quite a nice time span for an update, like these 30 minutes or what. So I would just like to thank you that you have taken your time to have this interview with us. I hope the backers did all enjoy this talk as much as we did. And if you have any more questions regarding layouting or Katherine Boils or whatever, just ask ahead in the comments of the updates, and I will just spam you on Discord and ask more questions which will perhaps pop up.
No problem.
Okay.
Well, cool. Thank you guys so much for speaking to me.
Yes,
thank you.
So, see you soon, backers. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.